What's up, everyone? Stephen Harrell from Tiny House Listings, going live to celebrate. Can we do it this way? Oh well, that's locked. We're going live to celebrate 500,000 YouTube subscribers. Kind of interesting. Took 6 years to get to 100,000. Then it took and then it took 6 months to get to 200,000, and then like it's kind of steamball from there. But we've been very, very active on here on the channel or whatnot. So it's been really interesting and exciting. I don't really do many. Oh my gosh, the phone is a pain. Let's relocate to somewhere else actually. Okay, at the Tiny House Listings office right now. 1 second. Anyways, yeah, thanks for you guys' support. We're climbing up on, we are like 2 subscribers away from 500,000. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I just want to get on here and thank everyone. Look, where's that? Look right here. I'm thanking everyone for their support. I know there's some people who've been, there's a lot of people who have been on subscribers to channels for like 6 or 7 years. Crazy. Look, we're just 1 away. Anyways, oh, now it's going down because I showed people. Mia Brown, shout out. Shout out to Mia Brown. Anyways, what do I want to talk about here? Oh, I want to see if there's any anyone that wants to do like have any questions that we can answer about tiny houses. I saw, let's see right here, nice glasses, thanks. Someone said, I want to ask, can you deliver like your tiny houses to the UK? I'm a first-time buyer and I want a tiny house as a first house. Check out Tiny House Scotland. Those guys do really good work. There's also Tiny House UK. There's quite a few tiny house builders in the UK. I don't know if I would pay to have one delivered. It'd probably be the cost would probably be expensive, unless if you could fit one into a high shipping container, but even most shipping containers won't be tall enough for a tiny house. How much do tiny houses usually cost? Right now, if you go on the site, a decent, like livable tiny house, there's ones that range from 15,000 to 115,000 and everything in between. So it's completely up to you what you want to pay. Let's see. What about starting a 24-hour or 48-hour challenge to see if a person could live or survive in a tiny house on their own? Or there was a challenge like that, I would love to do it. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people doing it now, so I'm not sure if that'd be too much of a challenge. Naked and Afraid, shit like that, that's more of a challenge, I would say. Yeah, 1 subscriber away, it keeps bouncing up and down. Did you just hit 500 day after the video posted? No, we're still 2 away. Generally with bills and everything, does it cost about as much as a regular home? That's completely up to you. I've done a video on here before where I explained like my father's annual expenses, what he pays literally for a whole year to live in his house. Recurring expenses are about $36, and that's just for the taxes on the land. Lord Bro, shout out. Man, our subscribers are going down. But so I mean, like he pays $36. He pays and a little bit of propane. You know, let's see. Do you build them? No, we don't build them. We don't build them. Tiny House Listings is we've been thinking about starting a tiny house building company, but mostly, hey, from Denmark, what's going on? I've been to Denmark before. Love it. Very peaceful and pretty place. No, we don't build them, but if you go on the Tiny House Listings site, there's hundreds and hundreds of builders there. Or if there's always, you click that little blue chat bubble at the bottom, and that'll bring up support, and one of our support folks will help you out with any kind of question you have, put you in touch with someone, things like that. Hey, from Hong Kong, what's going on? What is my dream for the tiny house movement? For it to continue to good question, to continue for it to gain steam. I think it's to the point now. I kind of think it's to the point now where tiny houses are like a permanent category, like housing category, because they've like saturated our culture so much that there's really no turning back. So any kind of situation you can imagine where someone needs to live in a small home, whether they're like downsizing and they're getting older, or they're a high school student moving to college, whatever. I think people are going to look at tiny house as an option, or people who know they're going to be moving in a couple years or move frequently. There's a zillion like different scenarios, but that's what I think. I think my dream is for it to continue to gain steam and people to look at. Hold on, I got to get a screenshot of that before someone unsubscribes. Awesome. Cool. We worked so hard. There's like over 500 videos on this channel. And so you should go back to the playlist. We've categorized a lot of these videos. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. Didn't come on here to like toot my own horn, but we just wanted to like use this as an excuse to get on here and help people answer some questions, because we do a lot of live streams that are on Instagram. So check us out over there too, if you would. We're trying to get to 100,000 there, and it's really, really hard to make your audience grow on Instagram. Hey, from Philippines, how's it going? All right, awesome. In tiny houses, I love the ones that have a nice bathroom. Yeah, you're starting to see more and more of that because tiny houses are expanding. People are naturally going bigger, and that makes sense in some ways because a lot of families are moving in, and people, they want to live in a tiny house for the long haul, and they want to make sure it fits their criteria while also minimizing their expenses. So it makes a lot of sense. I want one so bad, and I'm so stressed dealing with the 18 square foot house, and cleaning the bills are crazy as shit, and I'm ready for freedom, LOL. Just go for it. I've heard that story probably thousands of times, and a lot of people just go for it. Like, it's anything you think is in your way is just a facade. It's not true. Just do it. I mean, there's really nothing holding you back. Anything that you think is holding you back is just fake. It's not real. It's fear. False events appearing real. Hey, from San Antonio. Awesome. I went to basic training there in the Air Force. Do you think tiny houses will still have people living in them 20 years ago? I hope so. I think so. I mean, tiny houses thousands of years ago, you got to think like tribes that had lived them in Africa 10 or 15,000 years ago in mud huts and stuff. So it was nothing new. The problem is we got away from our sanity. Like a couple generations ago, we employed the very, very, very sad tactic of allowing people to have a house payment for 30 years. Like, and that's what, if you look at when 30-year loans came about, and then like the size of homes, it kind of went straight up. So the banks benefited, builders benefited, real estate industry benefited. The only person who didn't benefit are the same people who now have easy credit to credit card. The same person, the end consumer. Not a good idea. Stay away from it. I remember when I was in college, I would go to like these events, and then like Capital One would be there. You know what I mean? Like events, like signing college students up for credit cards. So like right out the gate, people are getting in debt, like just stay away from it. Never ever live above your means. Right now, the average household income, about 35% of that represents household related expenses. Like imagine if you cut that to 5, and you got to keep 30% of your money that you spend towards your house every month, whether it's mortgage, rent, electricity, all that stuff, you guys got to keep it. Like, how would that change your life? Think about it. Can you move a tiny house to Guam from the US? I'd say so. Yeah, there's actually tiny house builders in Puerto Rico too. There's probably a good tiny house builder in Guam. I'm gonna look that up. Hey, from Sri Lanka, awesome. Thanks for joining us. That's a long ways away. How would you select a right card to draw a tiny house? Do you mean tow? How much PS? Do you mean horsepower? If you're talking about a car, yeah, like depends on the size of the tiny house. There's some tiny houses out there that are like 16, 18 feet long that are made from steel frame and built to be ultra light, that a regular V8 truck, maybe even V6 can tow it. But then you got the large ones, you'll need like a half-ton or 1-ton truck, depending on the size. What is the maximum square footage to still be considered a tiny house? On tiny house listings for 8 years now, we've always considered 500 or smaller. But I think that square footage is very relative. Like if you're a family of 6, and you live in an 800 square foot home, I don't care what anyone says. That's pretty small. People did it just a few generations ago, very, very, all the time, very regularly. But now it's way less. I think last year the average home built in America was 2,650 square feet. If that tells you anything. So if you and 6 other people lived in a tiny house that's 800 square feet, whatever. I'm just using an example. So But for us, we consider 500 or smaller. Life is too short. Why drown in bills? Absolutely. You think about it, a 30-year loan, like let's say the average American lives to be 78, right? So that means you're an adult. You turn adult when you're 18. That means 60 years of your life, you're an adult, right? 30 years of that you spend on one house. Like, that's insane. Just shed it. Hey, from Austin. Awesome. Cool. Austin is a hotbed for tiny houses right now. Let's see. I agree. I want one as self-sustaining as I can get, and I wake up in the beach one week, in the mountains and another my dream. There's a lady and her husband not too long ago that touched base with me. And they live in a beautiful floating home way up in Alaska in the summer, and then in the winter when it gets cold up there, they have a tiny house, super tiny house down in Florida. They just bounce back and forth, and they work from home both places. So that's like the new version of, oh my God, what do they call it? Snowbirds. It wasn't me that got you to 500K. I subscribed long ago. Just bought my 15-passenger shuttle bus yesterday. Moved on the road from my 450 square foot condo. Awesome. You were already pretty tiny, but that's even better. So cool. If it isn't converted, send me a message. I'd love to feature your bus once you do, or even now on the here on this channel. That'd be awesome. Is there some tiny houses in architecture? It looks amazing. I'm not sure what you mean. Sorry. Tiny is like BMI. It just depends on a few factors. I'm not sure. Should I know what BMI means? I don't know. But if you're talking about tiny houses that are about architecture, look at Tiny Houses on the Go. Let's see. Anything from my very, very good friend, Deke Diedrichsen from RelaxShacks.com. He has several books out. Some have been bestsellers. Really good. Go on Amazon and look at those. Is the tiny houses are safe for burglaries, break-ins, and stuff? A really good piece of equipment is by a company called Ring. You can put those basically all around the house, inside, whatever. And if there's any movement, or you can set different settings, it'll show up on your phone. It'll send an alarm. It'll send a picture off to, or a live stream, or alert the authorities, whatever. There's all kinds of things you can do like that. But as far as burglars and everything, they're basically the same. As far as getting as a regular house, they have windows and things like that. There's other things you can do to secure them to the ground if you're looking for tiny houses. You can put rods into the ground and chain them. There's also, if you go into big cities, a lot of times you'll notice people get the boot on their car because they didn't pay parking tickets. You can put those on your tiny house. You can put a lock that goes around the ball in the front of your car. You can put the lock in there and close it. That way no one, let's see here. Hello from Cape Cod. Yes, Cape Cod. I love Cape Cod. There's some nice tiny houses there. How long does it take to build a 400 or more tiny house? Well, if you're building it yourself, it's going to take a long time, and you have very little building experience. There's tiny house builders out there that are actually building that large now, and that depends on how backed up they are. If they have customers in the pipeline and things like that, I would say several months at least if the person's not busy, if the builder's not busy. Depending on where you're at, if you go to the chat icon on Tiny House Listings and send us a message, and we'll help get you in touch with the right people. So, did we hit 500K yet? Let's see where we're at now. Yes, we're still hovering at 500K. People are unsubscribing more regularly now that I'm on here celebrating it. That's okay though. When my kids leave for college, I'm going for it. I've been trying to get an idea of what conference I will, and your channel is helping me see my options. This is from Patricia. Oh, thank you. Awesome. Also, we have a website called tinyhouseswoon.com. There's about 1,400 tiny houses featured on there over the years since, I think 2012. So there's tons of inspiration in there, and a lot of those have videos as well. Hey, it's my first time on your channel. You got 500,000 subscribers. Congratulations. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. A lot of hard work. If you weren't here earlier, I was saying that it took 6 years for us to hit 100,000, and then 6 months, 200,000. Then I think 5 months, 300,000, then 4, then 4, then 3, or something like that. So it's kind of definitely much a snowball effect. I want to get on here one time and talk about some ideas that I have for people who are in the tiny house world who are trying to grow their YouTube channel. I want to do a video on that, because the cool thing about the tiny house world, tiny house movement, is there's most people, if you buy a regular house, you're not really part of any community. You're part of the people around you, but overall, online or a movement or anything like that. With tiny houses, a lot of people blog their journey. They have YouTube channels. They try to make a little bit of money online to help support their income since they have far less once they live in a tiny house, things like that. So I want to try to help those people. So if you're one of those people, send me a message or email me at support@tinyhouselistings.com and give me some ideas like what you'd like to hear. Hey from Minnesota, how's it going? Hi from France, awesome. Thank you, man. We're like worldwide here. Is there insurance for tiny houses? Excuse me, yes. There's a new company coming out and I've actually been trying to work with them called lemonade.com. And they're very, you can go online, they have artificial intelligence that literally can spit out a quote for you in something like 3 minutes. Yeah. Congrats, Orangey. Congrats, you have worked your butt off for this. Thanks for the great content. Thank you. Appreciate it. A lot of builders on here have been nice enough to send us tours over the years to their tiny houses that are listed for sale on Tiny House Listings. So thank you all you guys as well. I needed to give you everyone a shout out. So thank you. I'm on my second year building my tiny house. I'm disabled and a widow at 40. So I've spent thousands on guys who gladly took my money, but then never shut up. I don't know if I'll ever not be homeless. Gina, I'm sorry to hear that. It's amazing how much emailing I get from people who are homeless. I hate that. I really do. I'm sorry. I think you need to find someone that could really, really help you out. If you send me a message, I can put you in touch with someone based on the area you're at. Maybe we can put something together. Why are people unsubscribing? That's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's the same people who put really, really mean comments no matter how good. I even get people saying, this video is too good. Ugh. Like, people just find something to unsubscribe about. But if any of you have a decent like audience here on YouTube, you understand that like people can be nasty and it hurts you sometimes, but for the most part, you just let it roll off because their opinion doesn't matter. So, let's see. Ecos de Mots, do you think you'll love tiny houses as much if it becomes something you see everywhere one day? I mean, if you just love looking at them, yeah, it probably will. But if you love the whole idea and the freedom that you get from them, I just don't think that will wear away. I think the main thing is if you live in a tiny house for a long time, you have to make sure you remain content. Like if you wake up one day and you see other people have more stuff than you and probably less money than you, and you let that kind of slip away, then you won't be able to live or enjoy the tiny house lifestyle for the long haul. Where can you buy tiny houses at? Oh my gosh, you're on the #1 channel in the world for buying tiny houses, the #1 spot. That's tinyhouselistings.com. Does it selbst build tiny house need a license? I'm sorry. Hey Juan, can you, I wish I, let's see, can you, I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Vega Siete, Satia. Baga Satia, don't think so. They just don't want, just the number will change, guess. Sandeep Velpula, an interior designer from India, thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you, very awesome. If you do any interior designs of a tiny house there, send them our way. We'd love to feature them. Subs are always like waves. They come and go, but they always come back. That's right, absolutely. As long as you have 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that's good enough. Who needs equity if you have freedom? Who needs equity if you have freedom? Yeah, that's right. Like people say, like, I even did a video here, like Dave Ramsey talked about tiny houses and I sent a video hoping that he'd read it. I don't think he did. But he talks about like, do you have equity in tiny houses? Will they sell? Do they hold their value? It doesn't matter. The amount of money that you save by living in a tiny house far exceeds any kind of equity you'd ever get. What is this? Oren sent 20 bucks. Really? I didn't even know you could send. What? Thank you, Oren. That is awesome. That was like 20 bucks. That's like 2 coffees, right? Thank you. I had no idea you could do that. I wish I could give that to someone else, but thank you. Appreciate it. Wow. That's crazy. What is something that you would like to see in a tiny home? In-home automation. Oh, like something automated in a tiny house? I've seen some really cool things. I've seen when you press a button and a TV comes up from the wall or like a little crevice in the wall. I've seen where when you walk up to a tiny house, it does certain things because it has Bluetooth and senses your iPhone near. What are some other things? I mean, a tiny house, you see a lot of people doing in-home automation. I hope I'm addressing the question correctly, what you asked. I've seen, you got to think, even like when someone walks up to their desk, it lowers or raises because they know it's time. They've sensed how long you've been sitting down. All these things in a tiny house. It's much easier to automate a tiny house because there's less blinds that open and close in the morning. All these things. So if you're one of those type of people, like a tiny house is definitely, I would say, the way to go. How would you finance a tiny home? They're right now the leader in tiny house financing is a company called Lightstream. I've been trying to work with them as well, trying to get them to do some work with us, but we're looking at quite a few options. But let's see. If you go on tiny house listings and do search for all, and then there's a drop down where it says tiny houses that have. There's a drop down that says tiny house financing available. Then you can do a search for tiny houses that are available for financing on the website as well. And again, hit the blue chat button at the bottom and we can put you in touch with the right people. Where can we park these tiny homes in Los Angeles, California? In the city, good luck. I think you're gonna have a problem. The main thing is the problem with a lot of areas, big cities, is that the land is way more expensive than the tiny house. So if you're an owner of a land, it would be advantageous to not allow tiny houses on your land because you can probably make more money with it some other way. Unless if you have a backyard or a driveway. And then, but if you head east towards the desert a little bit, outside the city, that's almost always the case. You can find cheaper land and opportunity. One big thing I want to mention on tiny house listings soon, in the very near future, we're going to have parking listings. For the longest time, we had a website called tinyhouseparking.com, but we've shedded that. And on the new one, there'll be parking listings. So if you see a tiny house for sale in Los Angeles, you can scroll down and it'll say parking listings available in this area. So that's going to be a bit of a game changer, I hope. How many square feet is the biggest tiny house you have available online? 500 is the largest we allow on our website. We don't consider anything larger than that. We've considered going up to 750. I don't know, let me know what you think if that's a good idea. We want to keep things highly relevant, so we don't want to go too far outside of that. Darren Bianco, 2 coffees. It was a joke. Starbucks is expensive. Super Chat gives you money, but YouTube takes 30%. Really? Oh my gosh. Really? So by Oren giving me 20 bucks, YouTube made money. Wow. I'm not sure about that. Let's see. I want to get out of the city. That is one of the main reasons, aside from bills, that I want one so bad. Yeah, like for cheap country living, there's not a better way to go. Again, if you weren't here earlier, I've actually done videos. My father lives for about $36 a year in his tiny house, and that's just for the land. He pays a little bit of propane. Last winter, he paid quite a bit because he heated his home with propane, but this winter, we're switching over to a very nice wood stove from a company by Silverfire. Check them out. My good friend Todd Albee is the owner of that. Silverfire.us. Check out their wood stoves. Very, very nice. They're super small and weigh like over 100 pounds. So that way, in the middle of the night, they still have built-in heat to keep you warm all night. I want to say good luck with your channel. You have answered most of my questions. Thank you for making great content. Thank you, Maddie Station. Thank you very, very much. It literally is our goal and our passion for people to, I know it sounds cheesy, but for people to live in tiny houses. Can I put a tiny house in my land in Lancaster, California, or ship a container? The first place you should call is your local planning and zoning department. The fact that you already have land makes that very easy. You can give them your parcel ID number and I tell them what you want to do, and there's a chance they'll come back and say, well, you can't do this, but if you do meet this, and this requirement, then you can. And if you want to be legal, then you probably do it. If you think you can stay off the radar, that's up to you. That's your call. Let's see. Should you purchase land instead of parking in an RV, in an RV park? Oh, that's a judgment call. If it costs, if you can park in an RV park for $300 a month and it comes with this and that, that also depends on where you're at. And you just park and you're ready and you like being around other people, then yeah. But if you can find cheap land and don't want to be around other people and want to set up a garden and want to have your own little homestead and all that, then you should probably take that approach. You know, you got to kind of like look, first you got to, I always say you just like find out what you want, right? Here's how my ideal picture looks by living in a tiny house and then work backwards, kind of reverse engineer it from there. Hey, I live in Florida and have 2 teen girls. Can I build 2 separate units attached in the middle by a screen porch? Sure. So if you have a piece of land, again, that kind of goes by what I was saying, you need to make sure you build up to code. A lot of places want a lot of tiny houses, but if you literally, if you take cinder blocks and take them from the frame and put them to the ground, then all of a sudden the city considers you to be on a foundation, and then they can start collecting taxes. That's one of the main reasons tiny houses are not illegal in many places, because they haven't figured out a way to collect taxes on that structure yet, because almost all the laws in most municipalities are written that way. And there's fluctuations, but that's kind of sad, kind of the way it is. Congrats on your half meal, dude. 2 thumbs up. Thank you. Mongolian Treasure Hunters. Awesome. Mongolian Treasure Hunters. I'll have to check your channel out. That sounds interesting. I'm a new subscriber, and all in the info you have are helpful, and a lot of nice tiny houses. Thank you very much. Thank you for subscribing. Tell your friends. Me encantan las casas móviles. Si alguien me tiempo, ¿cómo se puede hacer para tener una Argentina por temo que mi pida debo tener? Okay, I think I understand. I love your tiny house movies, but I read that you have in Argentina. I don't understand. It's been too long since I've taken Spanish. Can anyone help me out? There's no will tiny houses can actually going somewhere. I'm not sure what that means. Congrats on 500,000 subs. Thank you very much. My understanding, you're near Wilmington, NC. I live 20 minutes from there. How did you find a place around there? I'm looking and getting to a tiny house real soon. Congrats on 500K. Thanks, Travis. We're actually August 3rd. We're holding an event. Go on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/tiny house listings, and we're holding an event August 3rd. We don't have the location yet. To celebrate 500,000 and just to get some people together. So if you're in the area, that'd be awesome. Well, just go on there and go ahead and say that you're coming or say you're interested, and when we make updates, it'll notify you. So how do we find a place? It's about 30 miles west of Wilmington, the place, and we just look for land that was allowed to have zoning, allowed to have tiny houses. You have to, well, you don't have to search that far. Actually, I think I found my piece of land on Craigslist like 4 or 5 years ago. And it was zoned recreational, which means you can do about what you want. It's 3 acres, which means you can actually have 3 dwellings on it. 3 permanent full-time dwellings. Hey, from South Carolina, what is the longest link that can pull a tiny house without a CDL license? Darn, I should know that. I know there's 40-footers out there that I've seen. Well, you gotta think there's 40-foot RV trailers and you don't need a CDL, so it's the same thing. Yeah, I think 40 feet, give or take. Someone else on here probably more knowledgeable on that. But there's tiny houses here in the Philippines, which are so poor. Yeah, that's right. When you live in the Philippines and then you live in a country like the United States where there's a lot of wealth, a lot of the whole tiny house movement, it has to be like intentional. Like there's a lot of people who live, I read a statistic the other day, if you have no debt and you have $500 in your pocket, you're worth more than the poorest 60 million Americans combined. In other words, there's 60 million Americans that have a negative net value. Think about that. So, yes, you have money coming in a little bit and you can go get groceries, but you're in debt. You're in pure poverty. Even if you live in a beautiful home, like and you have no money in the bank, you're poor. So it has to be intentional. You have to kind of like step back, even though you have all these options. Like in a place like the Philippines, you don't have those options. So it's like, it's a different scenario. Let's see, I got to go back a little bit. Any idea if they're stackable tiny houses? You know, like Lego, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, they're called containers. You can stack containers, shipping containers 14 high. They're made to be super strong so like they can be transported at sea. So actually, my friend Deke and I were talking about building stackable sleep pods. And we're going to do a workshop in November here in North Carolina. Congrats, love this channel. Thank you, Lenka. Appreciate that. Why do tiny houses cost so much? They don't. That's been a lie that's been perpetuated that you've probably heard and bought into. You can go on the site now and buy a tiny house for $15,000. You can build one yourself for normally half the price or two-thirds of the price. Yeah, tiny houses are all over the map in terms of prices. There are some expensive ones, and a lot of times you see those because they're most beautiful and they get shared the most. Basic tiny houses don't get shared much because they're very basic and they're not beautiful. That doesn't mean they don't serve their purpose. It's just that's why you tend to see more expensive ones. Tiny houses are cute. Thank you. From the Philippines. Awesome. Travis, you're coming. Awesome. Thanks, man. Looking forward to seeing you there. Very cool. It'll be interesting. How does the address work for a tiny house? Well, there's different types of addresses. Some pieces of land already have an address, and some that are out in the woods that don't have an address, you can literally get what's called a 911 address, and they do that just so they'll know where. You give the company that registers 911 addresses, you give them your parcel ID, and they give you like a virtual address basically, so you can do that as well. But if you don't even care to have an address, just find the closest postal department and have a PO box. I like to build one here in Australia. Awesome. Look up Tiny Houses Australia. My good friend Darren Hughes. He's like become the leader, I'd say, in the whole tiny house world over there in Australia. He can help you out. I think he's not in Sydney. He's in, oh my gosh. That's embarrassing. What's the second largest city in Australia? Super embarrassing. I can't think. Sorry. But you know where that is if you're in Australia. Brother, I need a house. Jason Evans. Yeah, man, you know, if you kind of take it step by step, just whatever your bills are, try to find a way of reducing them and eliminate them. If you live in a house, have a roommate come in, sell all your stuff on Craigslist. If you don't have good credit, get it up to speed. If you are okay with financing, do all these things, you know, like, I heard of, what was the story the other day? A guy the other day was 75 years old, had like a little bit of retirement, started delivering pizzas, sold everything he had, got rid of his debt, built himself a tiny house, had someone else help him finish the rest of it, a professional, and he lives in a tiny house now. You know, like, and he was I've even heard of another guy in the 70s built a tiny house completely blind, all by himself. So, I mean, if you want to do it, you can. I've come to that realization. Let's see. Albeit more a city-county issue, do you have any insight into conversion of commercial property into a trailer park community in North Carolina, more so Charlotte? I'm sure you could. I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, the zoning, it has well, I'm sure it has to do with the zoning in that area. It may not be on the table, but if it's in the correct area, yeah, I'm sure you can throw enough money for permits and stuff like that at the county and make it happen. My father and I own a construction company, and I suggested to my dad we should make tiny houses. He is currently still thinking about it. Yes. Well, a lot of times you'll see tiny houses for 70 and 80,000, and they're worth it. A lot of times you see ones that are not worth it, and people tend to think that tiny house builders are getting that kind of money, but they're having to actually reduce the price because they see other tiny houses that are that price that have high-end appliances and things like that, but you have to sink quite a bit of money into a home to get that kind of money. You have to have nice appliances, nice build, real good quality craftsmanship. Another thing I would recommend too is to look into RVIA certification. That's the same certification that recreational vehicles get. That way, a lot of your customers can acquire financing. Just do not go over 26,000 pounds without a CDL. Awesome. Okay, there you go. Yeah, like I have a 40-foot school bus and it weighs 23,000 pounds and I don't need a CDL for it, so that makes sense. You know, like these big greedy companies, my dad's an architect that's been building for more than 30 years and we don't have to promote ourselves. He's starting to be in it. I'd have to correct you there though. Like, a lot of companies you see charging a lot for tiny houses, they're just fulfilling a need. They're not greedy. They're making probably the same profit margin as companies that build smaller ones. A lot of people who are in a tiny house, they want to have a tiny house that has lots of nice features and they want to live in it for the long haul and they're willing to spend a little bit more to make it comfortable, but also spending a fraction of what a regular house would cost. You know what I mean? So when you see tiny houses for 80,000, there's a lot of people who want tiny houses for that. You see tiny houses for 20,000, there's a lot of people. So, you know, some people have flip phones, some people have an iPhone 10. Just depends on how you look at it. The lady in Argentina says she likes tiny houses. She wants to know how to obtain one. In Argentina, they asked for one of their own land, and that cost a lot of money, but she wants one. In Argentina, yeah, I don't know a lot about in Argentina. Maybe someone else could, but I'm assuming it's the same here, that if you're outside the city, your chances of finding cheaper land and less restrictions are much better. Thank you for okay, from the Netherlands. Jay Lockmar. What is your view on irregular houses that are built now? What will be the future if the tiny house movement takes over? The houses that are built now are crap. For the most part, unless if you move up to custom homes where the builders and the architects actually care and have the money to care. Right now, it's about the lowest common denominator, cheap materials, and they find out, like for here in Wilmington, North Carolina, they try to find out like what are the minimum I can do for hurricane requirements, right? And they put in like some hurricane windows, proof windows and all that. But if a strong hurricane comes through, they get blown down and they rot and they're just not thought well. You have to like, they're not efficient. You have to have high electricity bills. Insulation is subpar, everything. They're not built for the long haul. So a company that, a person that owns a 30-year-old home that's built like in one of these communities where they rip everything down and just plant them as close as they can, and you're using the bathroom and you look out and there's your neighbor taking a shower 5 feet away from you. my opinion on them, they're crap. Like I would much rather pay for a house like most tiny houses are built for to last a lifetime, and it's exactly how you want it, and everything's within arm reach, and you have very few bills, and you can live below your means, and you can go on vacation, you can have a job you want, you can do what you want when you want, and to me that's the ultimate freedom, and I any day would be willing to trade some square feet out for that. Tiny house is smart living, yes, couldn't agree more. Share some of the cheaper ones in a video. Okay, that's a good idea. I'd be glad to. I have in the past, but I'll start doing more. Wow, I never realized that you were in North Carolina. So am I. Well, let's see. Gina James. I mentioned earlier, if you go on our Facebook page, facebook.com/tinyhouselistings, if you'd like to join us at the 500,000 subscriber event that we're holding, go on there and sign up. Melbourne. Oren, yes, Melbourne. Oh, my God. Embarrassing. I used to live in Sydney, too. Should have known. Is there a tiny house RV park in North Carolina? You know, more and more RV parks are jumping on the whole tiny house bandwagon. There's even RV parks, a lot actually, that have a tiny house section. Probably see more of that in Washington and Oregon and Northern California, which is basically the tiny house movement has its roots there. Is it best to buy a lot or rent land? Well, if you want to own your land, I would suggest buying it. Like if you think that like you might not live there for a long time, and you want to rent some, that makes sense. You know, or one thing you could do is rent land for super cheap while you're living in a tiny house and saving up money to buy land. That's a very common tactic that tiny housers employ. People ought to be building tiny homes instead. There's a lot more every day. Every day you're seeing more and more. Like right now we have a database of, I think, over 1,100 tiny house builders worldwide. Yay, NC. We started our tiny house search last month. Still haven't found what works for our family of 3. I really want a downstairs master with 2 lots for each of my children. Very, very smart. A good company that builds beautiful homes I recommend is Tiny House Chattanooga. They're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And my good friend Mike Bedsel, and they build all their tiny houses on lightweight steel frames. And he's done quite a few like that, where you have 2 lofts, downstairs bedroom, things like that. Also has financing available. I got 500,000. Yes. Yep. Good. I don't know. Let's see. This channel's 7 years old. Took a while. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Okay. What is the average time to build? I addressed that one earlier, but it also depends. Like, if it's going to take a while. I've heard many, many stories where people literally hurry up and build the shell with some money that they have saved, and then as money becomes available, they get a few $100 here, a few hundred there. They'll go in, work on the tiny house, park in their parents' driveway, using their parents' tools, whatever, different stories. So that way it'll take a while, but that way you're not coming out of pocket too much. If you have a builder build for you, it could take a month or so, but if they're backed up, it could take several months. It also depends on the complexity of the build and the size. All right, you guys. Well, I feel like I've been on here long enough, 40 minutes. Need to go get me another cup of coffee and get back to work. Approved listings. I can see listings coming through. Good luck on the next 500,000. Thank you, Emily Oakley. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. But I just want to say thanks, everyone. If you would, if you enjoy this channel, just like share it on Facebook or something for me, or share it on Twitter, whatever. I appreciate it, and tell other people about it. Give me thumbs up on the video. I appreciate all of you guys. You guys are awesome, and we're gonna keep. We've got plenty of videos coming up in the queue, and we expect to do bigger things than we've been now. So thanks so much for your support, and we'll see you at 1 million, hopefully before then. See ya.